Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. So this is going to be probably a controversial topic, but given my personal experience in the past few days and some things that I've been seeing and reading in newspapers that I can trust, because I know there can be fake news, it's one of these little topics where I really think to myself, should I do something on it or should I not? Part of me wants to, part of me thinks, I want to keep my channel fun, but this is a platform as well to get messages out there, so people might be feeling or thinking the same things as me. So this is just to, I don't know how to explain, maybe you could say just to get the thoughts out there, or to help those that need the help, if that makes any sense. Encouragement for those that are going through struggles. Anyway, I'll elaborate more on that later. First and foremost, I just want to take a very few quick moments. First, I can't even speak now. A few moments to begin with. Just to say my condolences to the families of the boys who lost their lives in the lake in Solihull in Birmingham last week on Sunday. I have personally experienced people I knew in my own school before who drowned, basically. I don't want to have to say that word because I don't like the word, but yeah, circumstances similar. So I've experienced the same. So they weren't close to me, not in my group, but they were in my year. I did experience interactions with them, and they were lovely people. So I can experience, or I can sympathise a little bit with, what must be going through the family's thoughts and feelings, as well as the friends of the boys. As far as I'm aware, I think there's still one boy who is in hospital. So I'm really praying for that little boy. I hope for his family and friends that he recovers. I really hope for the best for you guys. So if you do see this, I am sending my prayers and my thoughts to you guys. I know it's not exactly the great time, especially before Christmas. It's not something anybody wants to go through. And again, my sincerest condolences to the families of those boys that have lost their lives. It's hard enough when it's during it's hard enough to lose somebody. It's even more hard when it's during Christmas season or any festive season, because it's a big reminder that person is missing in your family, in your heart. I know what it's like to lose a child, so yeah, God bless you, basically. You'll be my prayers, definitely. But yeah, so I wanted to get that involved, not for the views, okay, don't get me misunderstood, but it links in to the topic or reason for this vlog. So I did read within the tragedy in Birmingham about officers, I think, who were trying to help the boys, basically, and the emergency services that were trying to help the boys when they were rescued from the water. So skipping on from that part, again, condolences and my heart goes out to you. This vlog, as you've probably gathered, is about NHS, because obviously they're in the news a lot recently. Well, they're always in the news anyway. Not necessarily a bad thing, but they're in the news. We're aware of it. It seems like everybody's going on strike these days. You've got the rail services, the postal services, and NHS, and I think there's someone else who's going on strike as well. I can't remember who it is. Now, don't get me wrong, everyone's entitled to go on strike. Well, apart from me, apart from mums. But if you value your voice and you want to be heard, I mean, we've been striking since God knows how long. I mean, women, I think our first voice of reasoning was the suffragettes, I think. But yeah, fast forward. Strikes are one massive in-your-face action that gets people to listen and say, oh, you know, this is what we're saying, and listen to us, this is our voice, we want to be heard, this is our message. So as long as it's done properly, obviously, and not taken maliciously or out of the way of the reasoning, strikes can be for a good cause and used wisely in action, if that makes any sense. I know myself, during my 4 years at uni, there was a strike every year for the teachers, and although I agreed with it and I understood the reasoning, it also impacted on my learning a lot. And as I was going for my degree, you know, it's a big difference between the interaction and just emails. I can't explain it fully, but there is just a difference in package of learning. I don't know how to explain it properly, but yeah, it's a difference. So again, going back to NHS, we're all aware that NHS Scotland, I believe, have agreed, NHS Scotland, I don't know if it's the right terms, but anyway, have agreed on their settlement. I think Northern Ireland is having issues as well. I can't quite remember yet, if I haven't looked at it recently to see if they've come to an agreement. But NHS England is still heading for a strike, basically. So I decided to do a little bit of research. Now, I'm not going to bore you with statistics. I'm going to invert a few pictures on this vlog when I edit, so that it's better instead of me babbling along. But I did research myself on cost of NHS, things that I wouldn't even have known about unless I'd looked it up, because I don't work for NHS. You know, just little bits and bats, and I tried to shorten it, so it's not going to be a boring vlog. But yeah, so as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, the staff want a 5%. I've got my notes so that I've done my homework. I think it's an increase of 5%, I think. Yeah, I'll double check that maybe later and probably correct myself on the editing. But yeah, which would be, I think it's altogether an increase of, it might not be 5%, I think it's 5 or 7%, but anyway, altogether it'll be an overall increase on the wage of like maybe 15 or 17%. Yeah, so something like that. Now, there's a big misconception about why they want the money. Some people think it's because they want it in their pockets. Some people think it's to hire more staff. So there's mixed opinions on this. Again, they had a whole way of doing this, and I'm not doing it according to how I laid it out, so just go with me. So yeah, some of the money they want to use towards training more staff, because at the moment, if you're not in the NHS, I mean, my husband works in the hospital, and he's familiar with some of the roles, some of the bands. We say band because they have different, you know, band 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, band 1 to 9 of nurses, who will just call it, I think maybe, you know, different pay grades basically. And I've lost my train of thought. Oh gosh, what's I saying? Yeah, that's right. So they want to pay nurses more, train the staff more basically, and train people to be able to do nurses and nurses and doctors' roles, things like that. Because at the moment, if you go into the hospital, you have a senior care support worker or clinical support worker. My husband's going to kill me for this. Who can do usual like ECGs, you know, I'm not sure if they can do blood yet, I'm not sure. blood pressure, stuff like that. Nurses can do bloods, stuff like that, but you have to see a doctor. All in all, if you go to A&E, you have to be seen by the doctor to be decided if you're going to go home or be admitted to the hospital. All of those categories of nurses or health professionals are lacking. There is not enough staff at all. Some of that can be blamed or put blame put on the NHS cuts that happened a few years ago, where staff cuts were done. Some of it is due to staff leaving, but that's a different part I'll get onto later. And yeah, money towards I think I just said better training. Better training. More money being put on better patient care. Again, that goes into the cost of care packages, which we'll get onto later. Let me just check my notes. Right, checked it now. So I am actually reading it off my notebook. So I've got things like train more staff, done that. Put more staff on shifts and cover. Again, that can also be due to the cuts that happened recently, a few years ago. Because there's just never enough staff on. There never is. Family background. Manage the patient ratios better. So, for example, I read somewhere that one nursing staff can be in charge of up to 8 patients at least, which sometimes the care that person needs might change, might get worse, might get better, might get whatever, might take longer depending on if they're weak or whichever. It depends literally on the circumstances of the patient. So that amount of work for one person, their care plan, whatever they're going by, can change. And if one person is to 8 patients, can you imagine how hard it is? It's like being a mother of 8 kids, and you're just one after the other, Like I said, we're not in these positions, we don't see this every day. I can honestly say, if my husband had not informed me of these little things that happen at A&E, not like a mole or anything like that, or a CCTV, but his experiences, I think myself would just see staff as they're just not doing anything. I used to, I won't lie. I used to think, they're just sitting around doing nothing and no one's telling me anything, and how long have I been waiting? Because a lot of it is communication issues. For someone like me, I don't mind you coming up to me and saying, we're just doing this and that, doctor's going to be with you soon. I don't mind that, at least I've been informed. But if you're going to make me sit there for an hour, nothing, no word, then obviously I will get pissed off. So yeah, we don't know what it's like. GPs behind the closed doors in A&E 24 hours in A&E. Yeah, you really need to watch this stuff, because it's taking care of patients better, as in it goes back to the ratio. If we have more staff per patients, or even less patients per staff, whichever depends on the ward, we can provide better care. I've been a care assistant before, and sometimes we are given, timings to go do, to go take care of the patients, or what do we used to call them? Service user. And we used to go to deal with, we need to do wash them or feed them, whichever. And sometimes they would say, you need to be quick with this, you need to spend 10 minutes with them or whatever. It's like, no. For me, I'll spend my time with them, because first of all, if you rush them, instantly they're going to feel undervalued and just a job list. Technically they are a job list, but they're still people. So if you spend that time giving to them, you don't have to brag and talk, but talking to them, treating like a person that they are, they value that more. It's more dignity and self-respect for them. Same thing for a patient. You give your time to them. How many times my husband's told me that he's speaking to these people, he's not trying to be the angel of mercy of everybody, but a lot of people appreciate him because he gives time to them, he talks to them, checks up on them every now and then. He's doing things that should be done, but it's either the staff have no time for it, or they're burnt out that much from overworking, they've given up on it. So yeah, taking care of patients better, updating them, and like I just mentioned, no burnout. So when I say no burnout, excuse me, I mean, like I just said, not being so overworked with paperwork and job lists, and you just finish something and then something else comes up. It burns you out because it's just never ending, because it's you, the only person that's doing it is you. So these NHS staff are just asking for, it's not just necessarily money in the pocket. I mean, yeah, why not? They're doing a fantastic job. I really do think that now more than ever, now that I know what's happening. And they should get paid. They're taking care of people who are sick. They're helping people by saving their lives, being there for the lonely, not just people that are going in A&E, elderly, people with dementia, those that are sick, children that are sick. So, they're doing a fantastic job. Honestly, I'm not just saying it because I'm looking like I'm biased because my husband works at NHS, or, he works in the health field. But like I said, if you experience this, you'll see it yourself. And I've got loads of people who are my friends and they work as nurses or some profession in the nursing sector. And it's sad because some things that you hear, the stories you hear of patients getting upset with them, it's not actually their fault. It's not the patient's fault either, but there's just so little support, and that goes in line with how staff can become abused. And yeah, staff can be abused. So you think about it this way. Those that are fed up with hearing about the NHS strike and think it's not worth it and they don't do anything, and they just want more money in the pockets. Why should they want more money? If you're against it, basically, you think about this nursing person, whichever, whether it be a nurse, doctor, clinical support worker, the very cleaners that keep the place clean in the hospital, stock up the amenities like the bandages and all the stuff, the people that clean the tools for surgery, the surgeons themselves, all these people deal with strains every day. If it's not worrying about a operation or a procedure, it could be worried about their own lives. They might spend more time at work because of the demands of work, and they spend less time at home with their own family. They struggle with being there for patients sometimes because they want to be there emotionally for the patient, but they can't be because there's so much work going on. You can't have that patient staff cohort, if that makes sense, rapport. They're supposed to be nursing, and yeah, they technically say to you that you shouldn't get too close to your patients because it's difficult, blah 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 blah. But it's hard not to, because you get close to people, they trust you. You have to get that trust, because if it's better for the care if the patient trusts you, they feel safe. It's already hard enough if they're going to go for a procedure and they're nervous about it. They need someone to reassure them. You're a professional and you need to reassure them. They have these stresses as well that we don't think about. They'll have their own financial issues. Yeah, you could say, well, they shouldn't spend so much money, blah 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 blah. You don't know their financial issues. It's not always necessarily they're overspending. They might be sending money home. Somebody in their family might be sick. You never know. And this is why I'm one of these people who say, don't judge people. Just what you see, just don't judge them, because you just don't know. I used to, I won't lie. But nowadays, now that I'm matured and in my ideas and my thoughts and theory, I see differently. And we all have families at the end of the day. We're all people, whether we are doctors, nurses, the patient, or whatever. We're all families, we all have feelings. So, like I said, if you're a doctor or whatever, you go into work and then something goes wrong. They might lose somebody on the surgery table. They have to think about that. even though they're not supposed to take that burden home, they have to remember, oh, I lost someone today. It's not nice. When I was a care assistant, I think I experienced the loss of maybe 10 or less people that passed away during my time as a care assistant. And a few of those people I was very close to. It is heartbreaking, because even though you try not to get close, you can't help it, because you become friends, and it really hurts you, because it's like you're taking them with you, and then you have all these patients who become a bit upset because there's no communication, they haven't been updated, they've been waiting for days, hours for tests, stuff like that. They've been waiting in A&E for ages, there's nobody updating them, I think I've said that already. Or they've had to cancel a surgery due to, I don't know, lack of staff, or someone else had to go in because they're urgent more than them. I've experienced that. But at the end of the day, you've got to think if there's a reason behind it, And yes, we have a right to complain. If you genuinely have the right to complain, or you've genuinely experienced something nasty or negligent, basically, you do have the right to complain. Of course you do, because you have the right to receive a certain standard of care, which is supposed to be given. But again, this NHS worker, they experience harassment, bullying, not necessarily just by patients, but by work colleagues as well. I've known people to experience racism. They experience burnout. They experience lack of feeling worthy of the work they do, because they're just fed up that much. They've gone to work, done their job, but they didn't feel like they gave their effort because they're that fed up. And then that makes them feel unworthy as well. And, they just think, why am I here? And it ends up being, I'm here for the money. Not because it's like that is the main reason. We all earn a work. We all earn money. Let's put it that way. We all earn money because we need money to live. Like it or not, we need money to live. Money does not buy you happiness, but you need it to live. Be honest. If you didn't have any money, you'd be on the street. Let's be blunt. But people choose certain jobs because they either want to be secure or because they want to. I'm a teaching assistant because I want to help kids, and I've firmly been like that for a while now, for many years. My husband wanted to do nursing. Well, he didn't want to do nursing, it was his mother's dream, joke. But yeah, he's really good at nursing, and he's got the empathy for it, and like I said, these people, they still have feelings, and they experience abuse, verbally, physically, sometimes sexually, not sexual intimacy, but like sexual verbal, stuff like that. And they have to go through that, and they still have to go back to work. Some have experienced stalking from patients, but they still work, they still go, because they want to help people. So there's much more that I could go into, but I don't want to, because it's going to be too much, and I don't want people thinking, whatever, because you have your own opinion, obviously you do. But like I said, somebody who's experienced the NHS from not so much the inside personally, but from people that people I'm close to. The NHS have every damn right to ask for a pay rise, budget rise, everything, because hello, you're keeping us going. So very quickly to NHS, as much as it's not really ideal that you're doing it, because obviously we need you in the hospital, I'm with you 100%. Do what you need to do. But yeah, so that being said, I did a bit of research, like I just mentioned many moons earlier. I wanted to look at the budget and what actually it goes into, because everyone talks about a budget, but I don't think anyone actually knows, and the cost expenditure of these things, because obviously the way they're public, we don't need to know that palaver. But if I can get access to it, why not look at it? So this is what I found out. So again, forgive me, I'm looking at my notes so that I don't get it wrong. NHS, as we know, has a shortage staff shortage. Can't talk at this time of night. And to cover the staff shortages. I can't speak anymore. They use agency cover. Now, you might think, oh, that's good, agency, that's fine. But do you actually know how much an agency costs? That's the thing. Qualified clinical workers and non-clinical staff always get used from agencies. And the agency itself gets paid as well. So not just the person, for example myself, but the agency itself as well. Obviously it's using their service. So, very quickly, some reasons for demand of staff. Yeah, sorry about that. I know if my husband sees this now, he's going to be laughing at me and he's going to come up and talk to me and say, "You're looking at your notebook." Yeah, I am, so deal with it. But yeah, so just to very quickly to cover some of the reasons why staff are on demand, hence why agencies use them. Agencies are needed to cover them. So things like, people keep interrupting me. Yeah, so things like more people need more treatment. I think that's an obvious one. People are living much longer. Now, people might say, yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, of course, it's fantastic. But, you know, that it needs more treatment, more medications, more patients seen. There's a growth in population, obviously, because, well, we had the baby booming during COVID. But there are people who have made... It's not like you don't have a right to have a family, don't get me wrong. But with people having loads of children, like I know there's a family in the UK who have up to 22 children. I mean, each their own, go for it if you can manage it, but that impacts at the end of the day when it's, you know, healthcare. There's a mix in patients with more severe conditions. So obviously nowadays we're becoming more aware of new rare diseases or new illnesses, whichever. So obviously the more we're becoming aware of, the more research we're having to do, the more treatments we're trying to find, cures we're trying to find. I mean, I find it both thankful, but also astounding and shocking that within a few months of COVID hitting, we had a vaccine. Now I know it was trials, I know that loads of money went into it, loads of research went into it, don't get me wrong. I know there was, you know, situations going on that made it go faster. But it baffles me that after all this time, we're still struggling to find cures for dementia, cancer, stuff like that. We have things we can do, like chemo and stuff like that, to heal it, but that's over time processing things, you know? And it's baffling to me that there's such a contrast there. So there's also people with long-term illnesses. Now, this isn't to target anybody, but like, I'm not even going to go into it because I know it's going to be controversial. But I'll just stick with people with long-term illnesses. Okay, I don't know backlash because I don't intend on. I'm not aiming for that to be an issue. Yes. Anyway. People with long-term illnesses end up taking up 70% of the NHS budget, because obviously if it's long-term illness they need care for home, wherever, if they're staying at home with their parents or whichever, they need the supplies, the medical treatment, the medical equipment, you know, to, if they're on injections or special feeding tubes, or, you know, if they're in beds using computer stuff, you know, you get the picture. What's it now? And then in 2014 there was a change in recommendations for staffing levels. So, next page. So yeah, there was, from everything that I've just discussed, there have been studies, obviously, and surveys reports with, you know, like when you go to school, there's an Ofsted report to see if everything's working, what's not working. So from all this information, reports have been done over the years. I've been looked around, but I can't find anything recent, and it might be just my own laziness for not spending a lot of time on it. But what I can see is the Francis report from the Quality Commission in 2013, I believe, suggested ways to improve the NHS care, basically. Making guidelines, helping for staffing, better care, stuff like that. But this was scrapped after it was seen it wasn't working, basically. So that's when they realised that staff shortages were an issue. I think I'm getting a bit cross-wired here now because I'm trying to keep up with everything, but bear with me. So I've done this NHS staff, stuff like that. So now we have staff shortages. I cannot speak. I swear to God, my dyslexia is kicking in really bad tonight. Going back to agencies, this is going on to the research of the expenditures and stuff like that. So basically, it costs more for NHS to use somebody from the agency to cover a shift than it would do to have another staff member come in. So for example, if you have an NHS staff which is called in sick or just not coming in, whichever reason, and they use someone from like the agency Reed, this isn't an external agency, it would cost them more to use the agency than it would to use an agency within the NHS trust itself. The NHS do have their own agencies within themselves, but usually they use someone from an outside agency. I haven't found out why yet, I haven't looked at it yet, but that's what is more commonly seen. So again, the most used agency at the moment is Reed, and that is a lot of healthcare coverage, basically. This is usually because it's flexible hours, so you can book a shift or cancel it if you want to. More hours usually, because there's that much staff shortages, there's always a shift available. Excuse me. And it's usually more, I was going to say ability, more able to cover shifts because there is that many. Again, staff shortages. Perks of being an agency is you get paid more, obviously. And it's literally, you know, you don't have to answer to anybody really, technically. You just say, you know, I can't work today, whichever, or yeah, you can work whichever. And, you know, you're just a part of the staff anyway. You're there, you're helping. So, 2 seconds, I'll check my notes. So, going back to the budget, I'm staying on the budget anyway. It does actually cost, I've researched this, it does actually cost the NHS 20% more to ask for an agency staff to cover a shift. Agency can charge up to £480 per hour just for one consultant to do a shift. Imagine that. £200 for every further 5 people from, for example, from the agency Reed to cover a shift. So if you think about that in one shift, you could be spending, or the NHS would be spending, almost £3,500-ish. Not even that, probably more on one shift by using agency. Due to the price cap that was created for the NHS, NHS cannot spend more than 55% above the basic rate of a normal staff, or can't charge or pay, basically. if there's any more, if it's further than £100 to be charged for the shift, this has to be signed off by the chief executive in the NHS. So again, even though it has to be signed off, it's still charging more for an agency. So it's no wonder people join the agency, because they get paid more. They get paid more than NHS staff. Basically, in 2000, a report showed that in between 2021 and 2022, £800 million was spent on temporary staff. When I say temporary, agency staff. That was above the spending cap. It's £8.9 billion more for the agency, for one agency. I'm just trying to get the facts out so that you can argue it yourself. The Great Western Hospital NHS Foundation Trust spent £2,548.69 for one agency nurse shift for one shift. So can you imagine NHS Foundation charging, but not charging, but basically being charged that much for an agency shift for that reason? This is what I mean. So the budgets are not just, it's not just like, you know, going into procedures, it's also going into agency staff and paying the agency to have that person. In 2020 to 2021, 192.51 million I couldn't read my writing, £1 million excuse me, was used on healthcare services such as GPs, ambulances and mental health. So basically that money was used within those sectors. It was spread out. So that would have been for appointments, care, like I said, ambulances, stuff like that. 1 minute. And now we're joined by my little girl. Say hi. Are you alright? Come here. So yeah, like I said, the budget of NHS also spreads out, sorry, really bad lighting now. It spreads out on GPs, out of our services, public health, it goes on, the list is massive, honestly it is. Hospital services, things like that. It has been known, and I really am really curious to know if this is true. I really kind of hope it's not. See, she's got a cold as well, she'll be in the bloody NHS soon. Apparently, £2.5 billion, have I wrote that right? Yeah. Oh, no, 2.5 billion. Yeah, £2.5 billion is what it costs the admin department for payroll services. That is how much they are spent, or that's how much is spent on the payroll every year for those people working at payroll. That's maddening. All they do is crunch numbers, as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, due to COVID, this went higher. But recently, the budget went to 170 billion for healthcare workers from Levy, which was another agency. So, again, you know, I keep getting caught. I keep going back to how, you know, my message on this really is like, to understand the NHS issues, you need to really think about where the money's going, and it's not just necessarily, bye Danny, it's not just necessarily into their pocket. Okay, it's not like they're saying, okay, give me 15% increase, it's going to go straight in my pocket. No, it's not. It's on better care for everybody. Hey everyone, so I took a bit of a break, have my children to sort out. So I was thinking about the rest of the stuff that I have to inform you or talk about. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to bore you, but I just wanted to dabble a little bit more with the budget of NHS, because I think it's important to know where the money's going, and again why the NHS nurses are wanting to strike, and to have a bit of a story time with you so you know that I'm not just being biased. I had my own experiences of NHS as well. I'm being quiet because the kids are sleeping. So I just wanted to inform you little things like, did you know the cost of an ambulance trip? This can be a trip that the ambulance is going to someone's house, but the patient might not necessarily go to A&E. One trip will cost £292. If the patient is going to hospital, it's £292. If the patient is staying at home, that single trip has cost NHS £206. So already, I know you're thinking it's just petrol, but it's actually the service of it. Operations and complicated surgeries can be around £2,817 for operations. Bypass surgeries can be as much as £9,212. Hip fractures, they can be between £2,694 or £7,266. Yeah, an average GP appointment costs the NHS £39.23. Now, again, I know that NHS has its complaints, and I have known or looked it up that some GP and dental services are the most common to get complaints, mainly because of care, or the patient wasn't happy with the care, or communication was crap. I've noted that last year there was 86,000 complaints from GP practices and dental practices, 170,000 from hospital community services. Again, this can be anything from not happy with the care to lack of communication, things like that. Urgent treatment can cost NHS £77, and that is for one appointment. And just trying to narrow it down a bit for you. If a patient goes to A&E and the treatment needs to be continued, so for example they don't get sent home, they don't get discharged, they end up being admitted, the care instantly starts from as little as £359. That's the start of it. That's just being admitted, so that's basically the cost of your bed and stuff like that. So if you think about it, you really don't, unless you dabbled into it yourself, you really don't see the cost of these things. We just see patients being admitted. Unless you're not covered by NHS or national insurance, I know some people who have had bills from things like having an appendix out, I think it was. I might be wrong, but one of my friends had to have surgery and she wasn't covered by NHS or national insurance. I do believe her charge was £3,000. Now that might not seem like a lot to some people, but when you're not earning a lot, that's a lot of money. And again, if it's not covered by NHS, it really is a lot of money. So I have noted a lot of staff shortages can also be due to people who are retired or relocate for promotional promotional job basically, or maternity leave, or people who've gone on maternity and don't want to come back. But all this contributes to staff shortages and budget cuts, and it all contributes to having agencies cover everything basically. I'm not saying that agency is bad, don't get me wrong, but when you've got all these procedures costing this amount of money, medications, and a lot of the money is going towards agency workers, again, no hate to agencies, it's a lot of money, and it's money that could be put into actual NHS staff. I think I've spoken about discrimination. The staff itself could experience that. Again, I'm just trying to make it a bit more quicker. But yeah. So again, you think I might be biased here, but let me tell you a little story. So a few years ago, I went to my husband's home and I had pain in my sides, constantly having pain in my sides. Not every day, but enough to be noticed. I used to feel sick, like I was really going to vomit, but I didn't. Then I'd feel fine. And I never sorted anything out. I used to get loads of UTIs. Again, nothing. Just constant antibiotics. And then my mother-in-law, suggested I get seen over there, because over there you can pay just to be seen, basically. You don't have to wait. Again, one of the perks of NHS, might be free, but you'd be waiting. And then it turned out I had kidney stones, but because I was coming home soon, I couldn't have surgery because it would have been bad for my healing process, basically. So we came back. I went to go see a doctor here. They disappeared. They assumed that I'd passed them. I don't know any better, so I just let it go. And then basically, recently, I was having the same issues. Well, last year I was having the same issues, and I went to have another ultrasound. And yeah, sorry about that. Family meeting. So I was just quickly watching the news, so I'll update you in a minute. So yeah, back to the story. So I came back, they'd gone missing basically. The doctors thought I'd passed them. So I was a bit okay, a bit relieved, but I was also thinking, how is that possible? Because I don't know this kind of thing. And plus part of me is thinking, those stones, wouldn't that be painful to pass? So yeah. Anyway, fast forward, I started having the pains again. On and off through my second born and my last child. So I was scheduled for, excuse me, another ultrasound. This was after, again, some UTIs and stuff like that, antibiotics. And even though I had been to the scan and had the scan done, to this day, they have never found my scan results. Yeah. So I have no idea if I had stones still, if I've passed them again, I don't know. I've tried tracing it up many times. I've been told many times they'll be traced and they're going to phone the X-ray head office, whatever that bloody is. Never got anything back. Every time I phone, it's always a dead end. So yeah. And then I keep on having the symptoms still, and one of the doctors eventually told me a few months ago there is a possible chance I had an infection and it went up my back. I'm not a doctor, so I can't explain it any more than I know, but yeah, so I had to take antibiotics again and it cleared it up apparently, or I didn't feel the pain anymore. However, saying that, to this day I never had the results back from the scan. To be honest, I kind of wanted to encourage myself to, think about suing them for negligence, because I have no idea what was happening to my body. And yeah, nobody was helping me. That's what it felt like. I was going for these appointments, I was complying, but nobody was keeping an eye on things, and I didn't get any feedback. They're supposed to phone you if anything's gone wrong, but how could they know because they don't have the results? And then recently, connection to recently, I've always had anxiety attacks, chest pains, and then recently I was experiencing, I've had ECGs for that. I'll try and edit down below the proper name for an ECG. Basically, it monitors your heart rate, I think, or blood flow, making sure everything's working basically inside. And I've always had them done when I've gone in for chest pains. Everything's always been normal, blood pressure's always been normal, blah, 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 blah. So they've always discharged me because they can't do anything. They always say, if it comes back, come back yourself. If it gets worse, come back, blah, 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 blah. So despite me going to the doctor many times for this, I always get discharged because they just don't know. And then suddenly it progressed a bit to the point where I was having tickling in my arms, and then it would stop. No, it wasn't anything cardiac-like, I think. That's what they said. And then I started having chest pains here, basically. To the point where I've never been tasered before, but I imagine it's like that. It was like an electric shock. And, it just came out of nowhere. So, this is connecting to recently. I know it's not an anxiety attack, so the difference between that and the pain that I was experiencing. So I went to the doctor. Well, I phoned the out of hours doctor because it was out of hours for GPs. And the online referrals that we're supposed to be able to do was down. Yeah, great, innit? So I went to an urgent care out of hours in Middleton. I won't say the name of it because I'm trying not to be too nasty. But the point of this is to get you to see that I'm not being biased. I've had my own bad experiences of the NHS, so you would think that I'd be pissed off by now, but and yeah, basically I got to this care place, urgent treatment place, and was told that they didn't know why I was sent there by the out of hours, also known as 111 if you're in the UK, that they weren't accepting any more patients after 5 o'clock, I think they said, and that 111 is continuously sending people down there, but they can't do anything. So I was like, great, fantastic, what am I supposed to do now? Obviously very more politely than that, because like I said, in my experience, now that I know more about the insides of the hospital and care sector, I try to be as patient as possible. And then basically, long story short, is that they gave me an ECG just to make sure I was okay, told me to get some blood samples done, but they can't do it there. Let me just say this without being sounding too disrespectful. I've never known a care place or a clinical out of hours place to be open out of hours. So everything has been paid for by the NHS, the staff, the electricity, the building, everything, and it was bloody useless. It was utterly pointless being open, honestly, for me anyway. So they gave me a letter, sent me on my way to go to the hospital. I went to another hospital referred by a friend in Dewsbury. I got to the entrance and they were already arguing about waiting hours, and the line was huge, and I thought there's no way in hell I'm going to get seen, because there's a triage. If you don't know what triage is, look it up, because it's too much to explain, but basically it's like on a scale of 1 to 5 how badly you need to see someone urgently. So yeah, got back in the car, came home. Luckily, touch wood, I've not experienced any more chest pains, but yeah, I just said to my husband, you're a nurse and you know what you're doing, I'm going to be with you, so let's just go home. I just felt so hopeless, I really did. And then, I don't know if it's connected, but I recently came out in spots. Tried to get an appointment for that. They have it's a policy or maybe a rule or a guideline, I don't know. You're supposed to phone the GP at 8 o'clock in the morning to try and get an appointment. I can't tell you how many times I've done this. And then it'll say you're a number, 36 in the calling queue. By the time you get through, there's no more appointments. And you can't even book it for the next day. It's just so irritating. It really is. I'm about to swear then. I'm not even going to lie. I don't think it's just for me, but my clinic, although they try their best to help you, and I know the staff, I know some of the doctors, the clinical practitioners there, they are nice people, but in general the whole system is just crap. I could say something else there, but it's crap. There's just not enough appointments, or there's not enough doctors available in the clinic, and it's either there's too many patients or I don't know, but anyway, so I've been trying to get an appointment with them about my spots, because I actually thought I had chickenpox again. And it wasn't scarlet fever because I wasn't severely ill, and then it wasn't strep A because, again, not severely ill, and I wasn't near anybody who had it. So I was thinking I've got chickenpox, like I said. Tried to go to the doctors twice. I tried to go to 2 walk-ins. They were so busy, and I was told my hourly rate would be 6 to 7 hours. And I said, hell no, because I'm actually still, apart from my spots, I was fine. Nothing was wrong with me. So for 3 days, I was trying to seek help for this. I even took pictures and did online referrals when it was up and running. Nobody was willing to see me. Well, not willing to see me, I couldn't get in. And then my online referral asked to see pictures but not asked to see me, which some spots or rashes you need to do certain tests like touch tests to see if they fade off, if you're a doctor you know. And to say they didn't want to do that, I was a bit, well, not that they didn't want to do that, but they weren't suggesting me to come in quickly and do it. I was a bit worried because they were willing to just offer me an antihistamine, which is an allergen tablets basically. So I was a bit worried because obviously they've not seen me properly. They've not taken my vitals and my blood pressure. They've not, taken temperature, anything like that. So I'm like, you're giving me something that I don't even know what it is anyway. So luckily, I went to the pharmacy, aka Boots, for those that are in the UK. They said instantly allergy. So I said, okay, I'll take your word for it. And then I finally got into the doctors yesterday. Allergy. I tell you now, I've told my husband I cannot believe I have an allergy. I've never had an allergy before in my life. I really have never known myself to be allergic to anything. I haven't. I still don't even know what I'm allergic to. But I have my medications, my steroid creams, paid for by NHS, obviously. Thank you, NHS. And it's helping. They've gone. They're vanishing slowly. But I don't know what I'm allergic to. So I don't know what to avoid. And unfortunately, I was actually told that they don't do tests for allergies, things like that, which I don't know about that. I haven't even looked into it anyway. So yeah. And I had so many issues when I was giving birth to my 3rd child. I was, things like I had to be induced. Long story short, I was sent to be induced and then turned back when I got to the induction delivering area, basically, because someone else went into my room. I don't know the actual ins and outs of it. There's obviously a reason behind it, but I just felt I had been in hospital for 5 days. I was like 2 weeks just overdue. No, not even 2 weeks. I was on the borderline for the limit, basically. I was the longest stayed person there to get induced. That's why they tried to get me out. And I was so depressed. I was so crying because it was COVID time. I hadn't seen my family. I was so lonely, and the only person that would come and talk to me was obviously the workers, and I can't expect them to stay with me all day because obviously they've got work to do. There was so much going on at that time, and it was just too much for me, and I hated it. And I remember saying to my husband, I want to complain, but I'm trying so hard to be patient because I know they have stuff to deal with. My own room did not even have a curtain to pull round whilst they were going to be stretch and sweep, basically. They had to get someone to stand near the door because there was a window near the door, basically. They had to get someone to stand there just so I had the privacy. Yeah. Even when I had my first child, I remember the room had a wall which had I can only describe it as a serving hatch. You open it and it opens to the other side, which is the main hall of the ward. So whilst I'm giving birth, we're legs spread and everything else, those people coming in and out the room, taking equipment, putting things through the serving hatch, and I just thought, what the hell? Where is my privacy here? So, reasons behind this is that I want you guys to know, put my glasses back on because this screen's hurting my eyes. I want you guys to know that I've had my own bad experiences of NHS, so it's not like I'm biased, and I've had reasons to really get pissed off with them, basically. But because I have seen behind the doors, basically, or heard stories, my husband has experienced things. It's not entirely the staff. They are overworked. They're underpaid. Let's be honest. They are underpaid. For the amount of stuff they do, they're underpaid. They get people abusing them, hitting them, scratching them, being abusive towards them. So if they're asking you, or the government, for a bit more pay, give it to them. Because, let's put it this way, what you want to think about the money, right? Pay them more, see if it makes a difference. And if not, take it back off them and say we tried it, didn't work. That's it, you know what I mean? We need to work out how to resolve it, and it's trial and error. And it's been the same issue for many years now, but it's getting worse. You know, there's just not enough care, not enough services, and it's like people are suffering because of it. NHS staff are suffering from it because of it. They have their own families, but they can't even relax with their families because they're on demand. On-call doctors, people like that, yeah, it's their choice to be on call, but sometimes it's not. I know you might say, oh, but they get loads of money. If you think about the stress they go through, sometimes it's not even worth the money. If you were getting £25 an hour, it might sound good to you, but then you think of all the stress that comes with it. You have no idea what they go through. So, yeah, my advice is walk in their shoes for a bit. And like I said, to NHS people out there, NHS workers, I know some of you did not appreciate being applauded during COVID, but I kind of hope a little bit you appreciated it, because even during that time, even for a moment, you were acknowledged for the hard work that you did, and that should be acknowledged, whether it was just for that one moment or not. You've been working your asses off for many years, we know this. NHS has been there for 70 years, it needs updating. Let's be honest. And it was insulting when I was told that you guys, or NHS, got a pay rise during COVID, and then as soon as COVID settled down, it reduced again. That's just insulting. You're still providing care, you're still saving lives, you're still taking care of people, you still need to take care of yourself. And yes, for anybody who is aware that NHS does give you the opportunity to have a car, basically, call it a company car if you will. So what, it's like a perk, just like getting health insurance through your work, or, you know, bonuses, promotions. I have heard that shouldn't be involved in it. Everyone's entitled to a bit of a promotion or a bonus at work. But yeah, like I say, it was disgusting to hear that it got knocked down again. I can tell you I got sick with COVID when there was no vaccines, when my child was 3 months old, and it was the worst feeling ever. If people say, oh, COVID's just a lie, it's just this, it's that, it's just a thing to make you think we're all sick and this and that. I don't give a damn what you think. It was not a cold. It was not just a headache. It was the worst feeling ever. And I've given birth 3 times. But yeah, and I got sick because my husband had to work. And it's not really his fault, but again, NHS, they're exposed to all kinds of illnesses when they go to work. They take that risk as well. So, you know, all these people that during COVID again ended up moving out and moving to someone else's house, or, you know, they went to stay at their parents, or the parents stayed with their family just so they would not risk contamination with the family and getting them sick. There is so many things that there's so many things that NHS sacrifices, NHS staff, okay? And like I said, I'm not going to go into budgets because it's too much information, and this is going to go on for 2 hours. But let's just put it this way, the NHS has a budget, they get money from somewhere, because we realised that, well, some of the money came from cancer treatments and cancer researchers and stuff like that during COVID. But there is money there. There is. They just don't want to spend it. But if they're willing to pay £2,000 for one shift for a nurse, I'm not being funny, but that's not money well spent for me. I know it's a nurse and they need it, but still, that's too much. I'm not saying agencies are bad, don't get me wrong, But if an agency is putting you to shame, you need to think about your priorities, especially with how much stuff is spent on procedures, ambulance trips, GP appointments, medications. Everything comes into the budget. So my final word basically is give the NHS staff what they want. Give it a try. I don't know if anyone agrees with me. Like this video if you agree with me. But yeah, show them they're worthy. Show them what they're earning, what they've trained how many years for this. They've studied for how long for this. So give them the patient care they need, the training they need, the staff they need. Try and show them. Try and help them so that they can say, yeah, it's working. This is what we needed. This is the help we needed. Trial and error. Like I said, you can always take it back and say it didn't work. Proof is there. In the data, whatever. But yeah, so to NHS staff, I wish you well. I hope you somehow manage to get some kind of consideration going on with your pay, or with the budget basically. And I wish you well in your work. You're doing a fantastic job. I appreciate everything you do. And yeah, on a bit of a sad note, I was told by my husband this afternoon that the child who was critical in hospital from the Solihull Lake incident has passed away. 6 years old. I have a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. And like I said, I have experienced losing a child. So yeah, no words really. Just prayers and thoughts to the families. Honestly, it's just heart-wrenching. But yeah, didn't want to end this on a sad note, but let's just help each other. It's near Christmas. Let's be there for each other and stay safe. And once again to NHS, thank you very much for your services. And yeah, I hope in some way you did like this video. Please comment down below anything that you think about the NHS, your experiences. And yeah, I'll see you next time.